Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind Podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Thursday. It's September 19th, is 2024. I know everybody that's hanging out with us live on YouTube. It's Wednesday night. That means it's time for the NFL show. We got a week 3 breakdown here. Joined as always by my good buddy Noto. Noto, week 2 in the books. A lot of injuries. Week 1, week 2 injuries have been awful. What's happening, my friend?
What's going on? Good to be back. Happy Wednesday night or Thursday morning, whenever you're listening to this. And yeah, week 2 was a bloodbath for me, but it sounds like you had a pretty good week. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, good week for me. A lot of the pieces that we talked about on the podcast, very high last week on Godwin Neighbors. They absolutely crushed, played a ton of Bowers. And I was shocked by Bowers' ownership. I ended up being I think I had 35% on my builds, and most tournaments, Bowers was 5 to 10%. So, missed a monster week. I didn't have enough Kamara. I was on him a little bit after watching the Sunday morning GPP show with Eric and oh my gosh, I'm blanking right now. It's Eric, Squirrel, and there's one other person on the show, and I can't think of who it is now, but they were talking about Kamara and how good of a spot and why they'd be like, hey, he scored 2 touchdowns. Why didn't we play more of him? So I ended up adding some of Kamara on Sunday morning, but just not enough to take down tournaments. But yeah, I mean, good week. And yeah, we build off of that, right? I took down the morning grind contest, so nobody got any free premium. You're all welcome. So there you go. And then we finished second in the Listeners League, but we were the top scoring show. So the morning grind represented in the RG Listeners League. If you want to join that in on the fun each week, RG Listeners League, and play along all the other viewers as well as all of our hosts, each week there'll be a first place prize, and you can win yourself a month of RG Combo Premium. Check out the description. I do have the link in the description. So if you want to join in on that, that's how you join. And the winner of that will get a month of RG Premium. If a host takes it down, I found this interesting. It keeps us engaged, right? If a host takes it down, it carries over for the next week. So the next week will be 2 months of RG Premium. So if you're not winning, root for a host, because if a host takes it down, it carries over. We have 12 games, week 3, a lot to talk about. I think that's the easiest way to say it, is just we have a lot to talk about. There's a lot to get through this week. So let's get started right off the bat here. Denver at Tampa, 39.5 total here. Tampa, a 7-point favorite. Is there anything here on the Broncos side that you like?
Not anything that I love for sure, but looks like Vita Vea could be out for Tampa. We know he's their best run stopper. He's been out of the lineup. Teams have been able to run on him over the years. And Javonte Williams had 16 touches last week. So if you're looking for a large field tournament flyer, maybe you can go to Javonte. But yeah, I have more faith in Tampa's defense than I do in Bo Nix at this point. So I'd probably rather play them. Josh Reynolds leads the team in receptions and yards, but there's some decent usage numbers for Cortland Sutton. I just don't know if he's a great fit with Bo Nix. So I'll probably just take a wait and see approach with this offense as a whole. What about you?
I like Sutton a little bit. Some of the first read stuff, and he's on the field, he's running routes. I feel like they're going to be down in this game, and we'll talk about Tampa. It's a really tough matchup for Evans, so I'm probably going to go right back to the well on Godwin. So I'll probably on Godwin teams run it back a little bit with Sutton more than anything else. Reynolds kind of got banged up. Listen, Pittsburgh is going to be tough on wide receiver ones all year. They have a really good shutdown corner, and they're going to be tough on wide receiver ones all year. So I'm not necessarily looking too much into that. I'm looking at Seattle. I'm looking at 12 targets for Sutton, and I think that he's going to get involved here. He's 5,400. He's cheap. Price doesn't matter. There's a ton of value this week, but I like Sutton. And then on the Tampa side, Surtain, right? He's going to shadow Mike Evans. I don't play around a lot with the wide receiver cornerback matchups. I feel like there's 3 to 5 corners that we definitely want to remember. But if Surtain's going to shadow Mike Evans, Surtain doesn't typically go in the slot. They're using Chris Godwin in the slot. think this could be a huge week for Chris Godwin, and just a guy that's already started the season just crushing. I mean, this is what we've been waiting for Chris Godwin with Baker Mayfield and just any quarterback. But I mean, he's third in the NFL in target percentage at 32.7% through the first 2 weeks, and I don't see it stopping.
Yeah, I love the Godwin call. He's the number one PFF graded wide receiver after the first 2 weeks. He's got 15 to 16 targets, over 200 yards and a touchdown already. You mentioned Patrick Surtain, probably going to be on Mike Evans. So right there with you. I don't think I'm going to play a ton of stacks with Baker. I'm probably not going to play a ton of Rachaad White. He's averaging less than 2 yards per carry, which is not good in the NFL these days. So I don't know. I think we're going to see his workload go down a little bit moving forward. But yeah, give me a lot of Chris Godwin in this one.
If this White issue with the groin becomes more of a thing, do we fire some shots on Irving at 5,100 if White is out?
I mean, if White's out for sure, but yeah, it's just hard to take a backup running back on a full slate. So even if he's limited, tough to do.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think it's just if he's out, I just wanted to bring it up. If White ends up sitting with the groin, we do the show early in the week. It's Wednesday. Injury reports don't come out Friday, Saturday, even Sunday morning sometimes. So if for some reason White does miss with the groin, I would fire up some Irving at 5,100. Philadelphia at New Orleans, 49.5 total here. New Orleans a 3-point favorite. I know you and I both do stuff for scores and odds on the betting side of things, and you and I were on a lot of stuff already in this game. I have a single game parlay up for this game and a couple props. I know you had a couple props up for this game. I know we're going to be on the same page for this game, and I love this game. I think this game is phenomenal. Let's start here with the Philadelphia side. What do we like here for the Eagles?
Yeah, like everything, got to assume that A.J. Brown's going to be out again. And, I mean, Jalen Hurts looks healthy, and this offense is playing at a much quicker pace under Kellen Moore. And, I mean, Jalen Hurts already has 26 rush attempts on the season, 118 yards. We talked about it a little bit last week, the tush-push not working in week 1, but certainly looked good in week 2. They used it a few times, and it worked every time. So he's going to get a lot of those 1-yard touchdowns this season. So I love Hurts. Devontae Smith, 33% target share last week with A.J. Brown out. I will note that his slot percentage went from 75% week 1 to 38% week 2. They were using Britton Covey in the slot role a lot more. So we could see Smith more on the outside, might get a little bit of Marshawn Lattimore, but I'm not too worried about that. I think the targets are going to be there. So love Devontae, love Jalen Hurts. Probably not going to chase Covey or any of the other wideouts, maybe a little bit of Dallas Goedert in tournaments. But what are you doing with Saquon? It's kind of a bounce back game after dropping that pass. Are they just going to want to get him involved early?
His usage, I think, is way too high to ignore, right? He's on the field. He's playing a ton of snaps. He's getting all the work. Listen, drops happen, right? It happens. It stinks. He ices that game with that catch. Peyton Manning looked like he was going to have a heart attack. But yeah, I mean, I think going right back to Saquon is fine. I like Hurts Devontae combo a lot. I don't even hate the triple stack with Goddard. Goddard, he was running a ton of routes. He was second behind Devontae Smith in routes run per dropbacks. So I think Dallas Goedert is someone we're going to use quite a bit this week. This is going to be a high-scoring game. It's going to be a really good, high-scoring game. It's in the Dome, and I think this is a definite week you want to target Philadelphia. A.J. Brown, doubtful. They said that he'll be out for a couple weeks. So it's a hamstring. Those hamstring injuries just don't get better overnight. And if they try to play him too soon and miss him for 3 to 4 more weeks, it's just not going to happen. So, yeah, I mean, love Devontae. Love Hurts, love Goddard. And then I love the New Orleans offense. I'm sold. I was kind of hesitant last week because it was Carolina in week 1, and I feel like I'm just in. I saw enough from Kubiak and what he's going to do with this offense. All the motion he's using, that's a thing that's become this great offensive tool over the last 5 years, and he's using it a ton. I mean, I wrote up Chris Olave for a wide receiver prop today, and I noted in my write-up that 74% second half running attempts for New Orleans in the first 2 weeks. If this game stays close, Derek Carr at 5,800 might be my main quarterback play. I think it's just one of these spots where he is, I mean, he's just too cheap for the potential of this game.
Yeah, I like that call. I also wrote up Olave. He's like the only one in the offense that hasn't gone off yet, and he's their wide receiver one. He's still at a 20% target share. Still seeing decent amount of air yards, 24%. So he's my favorite play. I think it's a good opportunity to buy low on him. DFS, season-long leagues, if you trade for him, I think it's a good spot. You mentioned just Kubiak's offense has looked incredible. You mentioned the motion. They're doing a lot of play action too. I think that's been good for Kamara and the passing game. And then you have the Eagles. I mean, they're bottom three against the run and the pass. They were just giving up fantasy points to everybody. They were burned by the Packers in week one. And then, I mean, they just gave up that, long drive to Dusty Kirk Cousins and London and Mooney. So I love everyone here. I'll play some Kamara. I'll play some Shaheed. I think Olave is going to be one of my bigger stands of the week, but I like pretty much everyone on this offense.
Yeah, I mean, everyone. I'd probably be underweight on Kamara again and probably regret it. But I really like the passing game. I think the passing game gets going. Shaheed, Olave. I'll play some Kamara. I'm not going to fade him by any means, but I think you get some ownership by the end of the week. Philly has just been awful. They've been atrociously bad defensively. And I think Kamara is someone that by Sunday is going to be very hyped up, and I'll probably end up underweight, but I'm not fading him. There's a lot of good running back plays this week. I was struggling when I was doing my initial research for this slate for the podcast, how many good running back plays there are this week. So I don't think you're going to have an issue finding pivots if you get a chalky running back. And if I'm wrong and Kamara is not getting a ton of ownership, I'll probably go overweight on him because it is a really good spot. Green Bay at Tennessee. This is a football game. It's week 3. It's 36.5 total. Tennessee a 3-point favorites. There was some positive stuff that came out of Wednesday practices. Jordan Love limited it at practice. If he plays, it's just a completely different outlook for me. Whether or not he plays or not, I don't want to do anything with this team in the passing game with Malik Willis because he had 14 attempts. And he threw for 122 yards. That just doesn't give us enough upside. I think we obviously have to look at Josh Jacobs. He ran 32 times for 150 yards last week against the Colts. I mean, what are we doing with the Packers? I mean, I guess it really just comes down to who's playing quarterback.
Yeah, it depends on Love. Last week with Malik Willis, 53 runs, 14 dropbacks. You don't see that very often in the NFL. For me, if it's Willis, I'm going to full fade Josh Jacobs just because I think everyone's going to chase the workload, but they're not going to throw the ball. He's going to have zero involvement in the passing game. And so he's going to have to go over 100 yards and score to be, a tournament difference maker. I don't know if that's going to happen on the road against the Titans, especially if they fall behind early. So I'm going to fade Jacob if it's Willis. And then, if it's Love, I'd probably just fade everybody. I don't know. Maybe take a shot on a couple of the receivers, but I doubt they rush him back. It just seems like better to just keep your franchise guy healthy and get him back when he's 100%.
I'd be shocked if he plays this week. So I mean that's kind of where I'm at. And on the Titans side, anything here on the Titans side that you like?
I mean, Will Levis must watch television at this point. He's just doing the craziest things you'll ever see. His head coach is calling him out in public. It's just, I don't know. I don't really want to play anybody, but the Packers have struggled against the run. They're giving up 5.5 yards per carry, 2 rushing touchdowns already. I do like Tony Pollard. I mean, he's kind of seeing 2/3 of the work, even though they said it was going to be a 50-50 split. Tajay Spears said he's going to play, but he's been banged up a little bit. So I'll probably play some Tony Pollard, but like you mentioned, there's so many good running back plays that it's kind of hard to fit guys like that in. And yeah, Ridley, I mean, scored twice last week, has 60% of the team's air yards. I typically like those numbers, but I just don't think it's a game that's going to have a lot of appeal because the Packers just kind of want to run the ball, run the clock, keep the game, quick.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would have a lot more interest in Pollard if Spears doesn't play. He did not practice. He's dealing with an ankle injury. He did say, he should be good to go this weekend, but it's Wednesday. You never know. So I would have more interest in Pollard because it's a 68 to 31% split right now as far as snap percentage between these, or last week anyway, week 2, that is not, so week one, we saw it a little bit more. I think it was like Spears was on the field more in week one. But week two, we saw Pollard a little bit more. I feel like if Pollard is going to get the first crack opportunity, it's not a bad spot for him. I'm with you on Ridley. Like, I like the numbers that we're seeing from Calvin Ridley, and I like the potential, but not this game. Like, this game stinks. There's a lot of good games on this slate. So I think you got to remember the matchup. The total has gone up to 37.5. Whoop-de-doo. Who cares? Bears and Colts, 43.5 total in this one. Colts a 1-point favorite. What do you like here for Chicago?
I don't know, man. Caleb Williams doesn't look great. I mean, the offensive line certainly isn't helping on that front. He was just getting pressured over and over again against the Texans the other night. But the good news is it's indoors against the Colts team that's 20th in pressure rate, 29th in EPA against the pass. So probably his best matchup to date. I'm probably still not going to go there, but this is a decent spot. I think the Bears going to lean on the run game, more often than they have the first couple of weeks, especially early in the game. So I could see DeAndre Swift getting more work, but again, you just can't play him with so many running backs in play this week. I don't know. Do you see anything? Maybe DJ Moore in large field stuff?
No, so I love Swift this week. Hot take. This is a guy that I'm going to be over the field on DeAndre Swift this week. Like, he's really cheap. And the numbers that we saw last week as far as like snaps and stuff were very, very good. Like, he's at 68.9% now as far as like snap percentage on the season, and it's trending in the right direction. We all kind of thought like Herbert might be a thing, but like they've used Travis Homer like more in the passing game when they've gotten down. But DeAndre Swift has an opportunity to play like 70 to 75%, and he's run the ball. As running backs, they've run 31 times in the first 2 weeks, and he's run 24 of those. So it's really just been him. And dude, the Colts run defense has been awful. And like you talked about, like the pressure rates and stuff, like PFF has the Colts as 28 in pressure. Like, this might be one of the spots where the Chicago offensive line doesn't actually look terrible. So after watching two runners go for over 150 yards each in the first 2 weeks against this team, I think that DeAndre Swift is someone that I'm going to play because he can catch the ball out of the backfield. He could do a lot. You got a young quarterback back there. Get DeAndre Swift going, and then it opens up stuff for Caleb Williams. So I do not hate Swift. I do not hate Moore if Allen is out. If Allen comes back and it's both of them, they're kind of like canceling each other out price-wise. So to play DJ Moore, I need Keenan Allen to sit this week. And then on the Colts side, I mean, the Bears defense has actually been pretty decent. They've, really got after the quarterback here the first couple weeks. You worry about that with Anthony Richardson. But, I mean, AR-15, man, he has a cannon. He has upside rushing. It does sound like Downs is going to play this week. He was full at practice on Wednesday. So how does that do for Pierce, I think, is the biggest thing. How does that do for Mitchell? Pittman really hasn't gotten going. I think the only thing I really want to play here is like Richardson and maybe a little bit of Jonathan Taylor, but not a lot. I think it's more just maybe Richardson naked with like a DeAndre Swift or a DJ Moore run back.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. It's funny how our opinions change week to week. Everyone was, hyping up Anthony Richardson after week one, and now everybody just dogging on him because he, stunk against the Packers on the road. So getting back home is going to help. Mentioned the Bears defense has been good, top 6 in EPA against the run and the pass. The issue with Jonathan Taylor is they just don't trust him in the passing game. He didn't play like at all in the fourth quarter when they were down. It's just so weird. So that's going to be a concern. He's also, not going to get a lot of goal line touches with Richardson. So I don't know. For me, it's a little scary playing JT at this price point, but I agree with you on Richardson. And yeah, the more you talk about it, I mean, Swift makes so much sense. I kind of made that same argument in my notes here, but I feel scared to play him just because he's DeAndre Swift and he's on the Bears.
What do we always say though, Derek? Scared money don't make money, right? And that like the saying? I'm wearing a Vegas hat that they're throwing dice, and me and you have thrown dice together before. So I mean, we can roll the dice a little bit here. I think with Swift, like if he was like in a shared 50-50 role, like I'd probably be more hesitant to play him. But the fact like he's getting the snaps and he's getting the attempts and everything, I think, is the big thing. So, and then like I agree with you on Taylor, like randomly sitting him out in the fourth quarter this week against Green Bay because you're behind, like he's your talent that you just paid. Like, what are we doing? Oh man, some decision that like coaches and stuff make drive me crazy. But anyway, all right, we got Chargers and Steelers, two of the better defenses in the league to start the season. 35.5 total here. Pittsburgh, a 1.5 point favorite. My boy J.K. Dobbins did his thing last week. I ended up playing a lot of J.K. Dobbins and the Chargers defense, and that worked out really well. Is there anything here for the Chargers against this really stout Steelers defense?
Probably not. I mean, you can play Dobbins. I don't think the efficiency is going to sustain much longer, especially in this matchup on the road. Steelers such a good defense. I mean, Justin Herbert, 274 yards in 2 games combined. So they're just not going to want to throw the ball much. 35.5 point total. On a full slate like this, I just don't think they're going to make my 5 lineups that I build. But yeah, Dobbins would be the one guy that I would look at.
Yeah, we saw Johnson out of nowhere. Like he's been getting a ton of first reads. Like they just don't throw the ball enough. So the fact that like Quentin Johnson is finally like coming alive is great. But like you're so reliant on touchdowns from him because they're just not going to throw the ball to move the ball down the field. I hate this game. I like both defenses in this game. Outside of that, I probably don't touch anything in this game at all. It's just not a game that I like anything from. Like Pickens is cheap, but this is a terrible spot. And I mean, the tight ends, they're just nothing. Like the running back situation, I like J.K. Dobbins. I think he has a lot of upside in matchups. I don't think this is the matchup. So I think I'm just going to be out on everything except for the 2 defenses in this game.
Yeah, I think I agree there. You mentioned the backfield, 50-50 split last week, so that's going to be kind of frustrating all season. Justin Fields projects well in all the models. I just think he's a different quarterback with the Steelers than he was with the Bears. They just want him to not turn the ball over and, to tuck and run when he can. So I just don't know if he's got the same upside as he did with Chicago, especially in this matchup. Freiermuth also projects pretty well this week, but I don't know. I don't know if he's, tight end's always just kind of a, dart throw anyway. So you can play some Freiermuth, but for the most part, this game just doesn't have much appeal.
It really doesn't. Not as much as this next one. We got Houston at Minnesota. 46 total in this game. Houston a slight favorite at, I think it's minus 1.5. Yeah. We'll go Houston here first. I mean, Nico Collins hasn't missed a step. We were all kind of worried like what Nico Collins was going to look like with Stephon Diggs, and 18 targets, over 100 yards in back-to-back games. Finally scored a touchdown last week. Like he leads the NFL in receiving yards after the first 2 weeks. If anything, maybe Diggs has helped him. Obviously, the matchups have helped a little bit. What are we doing this week with Houston?
Yeah, Nico Collins, 47% air yard share. And I know you like to quote the first read percentage, 33%. That's extremely high, one of the highest in the NFL. So, yeah, you can play Nico once again. Question for me, I mean, Tank Dell just hasn't gotten it going. Stephon Diggs had a couple touchdowns. So maybe this is the week where they try to get Tank going. The usage doesn't look terrible. It was much better in week 1 than it was in week 2. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Brian Flores has much improved the Vikings defense. Joe Mixon, got to keep an eye on him. Hurt his ankle on Monday night, didn't practice on Wednesday. It doesn't sound like Dameon Pierce is going to be able to come back either. So we could get Cam Akers being the RB1. We've been there before. Then I don't know. I guess there were some mixed results with him when he was the RB1 in LA. But yeah, I think there's some interesting options. Nico Collins is probably my favorite though.
I think if Mixon ends up missing the game and Akers starts getting any kind of ownership, we just load up on the passing game. Like I know like Minnesota is a team that we potentially want to target some runners against. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think this is a spot that we're going to be looking at the passing game no matter what. Stroud stacks are going to be a thing all year for me. I know like he hasn't had that like blow up game yet, but like it's coming. He's going to have these games. It's just like CJ Stroud doesn't add a lot of value with like his rushing yards and rushing upside. And that's kind of what we need right now because, I mean, weekly right now, it seems like we're getting 25 to 35 fantasy points out of, a few different quarterbacks. So, and rushing touchdowns for quarterbacks, always a huge benefit. But yeah, I mean, I like Stroud stacks. And then I'm going to go to the Minnesota side here, and I want to play Minnesota. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game indoors. I like Jefferson. You and I talked about him last week. He did his thing, not like a huge like ceiling game from Justin Jefferson, but no one's ever going to complain from 26 fantasy points from a wide receiver. Outside of that, I mean, Addison matters to me. He still did not practice on Wednesday. If he's out, I mean, I'll keep taking shots on Jalen Naylor. Like they drew up a play to get him a wide open touchdown last week in week 2 against San Francisco. And I mean, I don't really want to play the tight end situation. And in a game that I think is going to be, competitive, I like Sam Darnold and I like the pass catchers here.
Yeah, Kevin O'Connell's system, so good for quarterbacks. And Sam Darnold just playing great the first 2 weeks, 16 QBR through the first, couple games. And yeah, we got to keep an eye on Justin Jefferson too. I mean, he's dealing with a quad injury. You never really know if that's going to pop up. Wasn't able to return to the game last week. So keep an eye on him. Keep an eye on Addison. I like the Naylor call. If both those guys end up being out, then Naylor's going to be probably the most popular play of the week because Hawkinson's out as well. But yeah, I like those calls. And in terms of the backfield, we saw Ty Chandler get a much bigger role in week 2. So that's something to keep an eye on. A lot of people think he's going to be the RB1 in Minnesota by the end of the year. I'm not sure that's the case, but kind of hard to trust anyone, Aaron Jones or Ty Chandler at the moment.
Well, Aaron Jones had that huge fumble, so like he can't keep doing that if he wants to keep this job. So I just there's so many good running back spots that I hate like any kind of like 50-50 like running back splits right now. And then chat's asking if we have any interest in the tight end situation. I personally don't. I mean, there's like 6 or 7 tight ends that I wrote down when I was doing my research earlier today, but I did not any from this game.
Yeah, probably not for me either. I mean, Johnny Munt is fine, I guess, if you're punting on DraftKings, but I never have any strong takes on tight ends.
Kind of whoever fits the build or a double stack, or Bowers, who we're going to talk about because I'm going right back to it. Giants, Browns, 38.5 total in this game. Cleveland, a 6-point favorite. Hey, Neighbors, he did his thing. Hey, Daniel Jones did his thing too. Like, you were like week 1, you were like, all right, I can play some Daniel Jones against Minnesota. We saw how good that Minnesota defense was. We went back to the well week 2 against Washington. And like, I think there was a little bit more upside in that game. Neither team could kind of punch it in the red zone in that game. And it stunk because I had some overs in that game that I think would have been done really well. But 2 touchdowns, and Malik Neighbors emerged as we kind of hoped. 18 targets, 10 catches, 127 yards, and a touchdown. No question who the number 1 guy is in the Giants offense right now.
Yeah, first read on 50% of the throws. That's pretty high, I would say. So yeah, we were high on him last week. I was high on him week 1 too. Much tougher matchup this time around, but they're probably going to be trailing. So I'll continue to play Neighbors. I mean, with this kind of target share, I think his price is going to go up from here. Still only 6,400 on DraftKings, 7,100 on FanDuel. Really good price over there. So I like him, but I also like the Browns defense. We saw him hold Dak in check. We saw him hold Trevor Lawrence in check. Now they get turnover-prone Daniel Jones, who likes to throw the ball to the other team. So love the Browns D in this spot.
Yeah, I like that. I like that Cleveland defense call. I'm terrible about mentioning like defenses I like, and I literally write them down and I still forget to mention them. Like, but yeah, I'm with you on the Cleveland defense. I want to pair the Cleveland defense with a running back, but I don't know which one. I mean, I would have 100% told you Ford going into last week, and then Cleveland threw this like curveball at us with Deontay Foreman getting 14 carries. Like, the Giants stink against the run. I want to play a running back here, but who do I play is the biggest question, Noto. Do I just put them both on the shelf? Do I take some shots and play one of them. I mean, Foreman is 4,400, and like I can't overlook what he just did.
I mean, somebody that played Ford last week, I wasn't too happy about it. He even broke off that long run. I think he was the fastest ball carrier of anyone in week 2.
Yeah.
And then he just sat on the bench. So, yeah, I don't know. Foreman is good when he gets opportunities. We've seen it, over the last few years. So if it's going to be a timeshare, I'll probably just avoid it. But, most of the times when I do like a defense, I kind of want to play the running back too. So I'm with you there. What about Amari Cooper? I know it's been bad. Good matchup against the Giants, 28th in EPA against the pass. And if you look at his expected fantasy points, the difference between his actual and his expected is the biggest of anyone in the NFL. The targets have been there. The air yards have been there. He just hasn't been able to, meet up with Watson. So do you like Amari at all?
Yeah, I'll probably end up playing him a little bit. I think this is a spot where Watson has some opportunity here. I mean, it's a Giants defense, right? Like they're not that great of a defense in general. Like you said, this is a spot we want to target. And Cooper, I love that you brought up the expected fantasy points because, you look at the box scores and it doesn't look great, but then you look at 17 targets and it was like 13 were catchable balls, close enough to him, and a couple were kind of like throwaway targets. I think Amari Cooper is going to have a big game, and why not a big game against the Giants? I just worry about the Giants keeping this game close enough for Cooper. So I think like if you're playing Cooper, you probably want to play Neighbors. I think that's how I would approach my Amari Cooper shares and just say maybe Malik has a couple big catches. This game stays close and competitive. He hits his upside. Cooper hits his upside. Because I feel like Cleveland, if they get up in this game by a touchdown or two, definitely 2, they're just going to hand the ball off. They're going to play defense against Daniel Jones. So that's my biggest concern on Cooper. But, I mean, Njoku wasn't at practice again Wednesday. Doesn't sound like he'll play. I know a lot of people went to the Jordan Akins train. I'm glad I faded that train. He had 1 target. So I'm not obviously touching that this week.
Yeah, I only played on 49% of the snaps. I was one of those that did play Akins, so wasn't great. For any listeners out there, if you do want to check out the air yard shares and first read percentage and expected fantasy points, I put all that in the first look for all the starters. So if you want to check that out, it's free, and yeah, do it.
Start my research with that every week for years now. It's all condensed. It's so easy. Do a lot of copy and pasting from there. So yeah, I mean, Noto does a fantastic job. He's been doing it for a long time. So yeah, make sure you're checking that out. Also, check out Splash Sports. If you played Survivor NFL the first 2 weeks, good chance you might be part of over 60% of people who have been eliminated. Don't fret. You can start up a brand new Survivor contest starting week 3 on Splash. Splash is available in 34 states and is leading in peer-to-peer fantasy betting contests. Join us at splashsports.com/RotoGrinders to compete against our RotoGrinders expert community in another survival revival tournament week 3. We also added a NFL DFS Pick'em or fantasy tiers contest. Check it out for yourself at splashsports.com/RotoGrinders. We go to the 4:00 games and we start with a doozy. We got Carolina going up against Las Vegas, taking on the Raiders. 41 total in this game. Las Vegas, a 5.5-point favorite. Big news out of the week. The right news, Bryce Young benched Andy Dalton. We talked about this on the podcast last week. We literally said that like Bryce Young was really struggling and like we need the red rocket. Well, here he is. What are we doing with Carolina with Andy Dalton at quarterback?
Yeah, it's got to be an upgrade for the offense as a whole. Last year when he played, I think he played 3 games. Adam Thielen was kind of his guy. So we'll see if he goes back to Thielen. I'm kind of hoping Deontay Johnson gets going a little bit. I think he's the most talented receiver on the roster. But, yeah, it's hard to trust anyone in the first start on the road against a really good Raiders defense. So I'll probably just play more Raiders defense than anything else. But are you seeing something I'm not?
No, I mean, I'm with you. I like the Raiders defense. I think they're going to get after Andy Dalton. Like Deontay Johnson's 4.9K. I'm gonna play some. Like he's too talented not to have a little bit of exposure, and I think Dalton's an upgrade. So, and like Dalton's gonna make much more like better quality throws than Bryce Young. Like I was watching a video on Bryce Young that threw one of his picks where like he threw it into like 3 people, and it was like 2 of the defenders were looking, and his receiver never looked up. So, yeah, just bad decision after bad decision. I hope, maybe he can learn and get another chance somewhere. I doubt he gets another chance unless Andy Dalton gets hurt. So, rough go for Carolina. Running back situation, way too close. Not touching that. Again, there's so many good running back plays this week. The interesting thing is like the Panthers defense has been so bad against the run to start the year. Is there either one of these running backs for the Raiders that you trust?
Yeah, so your hot take was, DeAndre Swift. Mine's going to be Zamir White. Antonio Pierce just loves this guy. He hasn't been great on the field, but Pierce, keeps talking him up. He ended up playing 40 of 54 snaps in week 2. It's a great matchup, too. I think he could see, 15 to 20 touches in this one if he's, playing well. You can pair him with the defense. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Zamir White and kind of hope for the best here.
I hated the fact that Madison got the 1-yard carry for the touchdown. That is the only thing that, concerns me. I'm going back to Bowers. I probably am going to play this guy all year. So just get used to it. And it pains me as a Gator to like Brock Bowers as much as I do. But generational talent, they're using him in the slot. They're using him outside. They're using him everywhere. Brock Bowers is just, dude, this guy, he's a wide receiver 2 on this team behind Devontae Adams right now. And he's 5,400 at a tight end spot.
He's what we wanted Kyle Pitts to be.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm right there with you. I think Carolina's 31st in fantasy points allowed to tight ends, too. I know it's only 2 games, but, yeah, love Bowers, too.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to eventually try to design a play to get him a touchdown, too. They're not going to let him keep doing this without scoring a touchdown. I like Devontae Adams, too. I don't know how much Devontae Adams I play this week. More of just, I don't think Carolina keeps this game close enough. I don't need the game to stay too close for Bowers. I think he's going to do his thing. I think Bowers is going to be 7,500 by week 6. So I want to get in now. I got to get in now. All right.
Like prime Travis Kelce type salary.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Travis Kelce looks like he had too many garage beers this year, this offseason. So Miami at Seattle. 41 total here. Seattle, a slight favorite. I think it's 4.5. My Dolphins, rough go. Hate it for Tua. I mean, when it happened initially, I instantly thought concussion and hated that for him. It sounds like Thompson will get to go and start as the starter this week in Seattle. They did sign Tyler Huntley off of Baltimore's practice squad. I guess when you sign as a practice squad, I think they have to designate you to the roster for 3 weeks, I think is what I read. So Huntley will likely back up Thompson. What a crappy situation. An offense that we absolutely love the first 2 weeks. Now Skylar Thompson at quarterback. What are we doing with Miami?
Yeah, I hate to see the Tua stuff. Hopefully he can come back, or hopefully if he's done, then he can just ride off into the sunset. But so 8 career starts for Skylar Thompson, 5.2 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions. It's been really bad. I mean, I know he's a little bit more mobile than Tua, and I know we trust McDaniel, but I don't know what to do here. And I don't know if you saw, but Tyler Huntley is now Snoop Huntley. Changed his name to Snoop. So
yeah, I mean,
maybe he can get in there and get going. Yeah, I just want to play some Achane, and that's probably it. Most of us back at practice on Wednesday, but I think McDaniel's just going to come up with as many ways as he can to get the ball in Achane's hands.
Yeah, he's got to use the speed, right? Like between Achane, Tyreek, and Waddle, I expect a lot of trickery type plays. I'm gonna pass on Tyreek this week, which probably, I mean, on paper it sounds like a terrible idea, but I just cannot trust this at all. But fading Tyreek is always really scary because, I mean, he could do it all by himself. He's so fast. But yeah, I mean, I'm down on Miami. I have some slight interest in both defenses in this game. We'll go here to the Seattle side. I worry a little bit. I know Charbonnet did okay fantasy-wise, but man, he looked awful. He couldn't get going at all. I think I read something like he got hit at the line of scrimmage more than any running back in the week last week. We don't know if Walker's going to be back. Miami's run defense is really good. Their pass defense is kind of shaky, but their run defense is really good. I think both defenses are in play, and I mean, I don't have a ton of interest here.
I mean, if Walker's out, I'll play some Charbonnet just because of the role. Efficiency was terrible, like you mentioned, but he is a big part of the passing game. I think he had 6 or 7 targets. I think he played on like 90% of the snaps. So anytime you get that from a running back, especially as a home favorite, sign me up. And yeah, I mean, the passing game looks good. JSN had, where was it here? 12 of 16 targets last week, just getting peppered. And last year they just used him as kind of a gadget guy behind the line of scrimmage. Now he's getting much deeper targets, so we got to love that. DK Metcalf is banged up too, so we got to keep an eye on him. If he's out, then fire up JSN for sure.
Yeah, just Tyler Lockett was nowhere to be found last week as far as first look 3.6%. JSN was 39%. DK was 43%, and I love, and I quote first read percentage a lot because I love it. It's who the plays are designed for. It's who the quarterback's looking for. It's where the usage is trying to go. So I think it's one of the predictive stats that we could use to actually benefit from everything. And I think JSN at 5,400. I know I didn't say I had a ton of interest in this game, but yeah, JSN very much in play for me.
Question about Ramsey if he's going to follow DK Metcalf. I believe that Ramsey just sticks on his side of the field.
Yeah, he does. I was gonna say Miami doesn't typically shadow. I mean, they've done it in the past where Ramsey will follow somebody, but overall, I don't think that unless DK is going bonkers, I don't think that will happen. Nothing else from this one, right? I think that's it for this game. What are your thoughts on the defenses, really quick? I have interest in both defenses. I mean, the Dolphins defense is 2,500. I think they're really cheap as a cheap defense. Seattle's 3,500. I don't necessarily hate them. I don't know how much Thompson will throw as far as upside, but I had some interest in the Miami defense at 2,500. They can get after the quarterback a little bit.
Yeah, no strong takes here. Play a little Seattle with Charbonnet if Walker's out, but I think I like some other defenses better.
Oh, yeah. All right. San Francisco at LA taking on the Rams, 43.5 total in this game. Man, both of these teams, it's been a rough go. You hate to see it on both sides. San Francisco, 7.5 point favorite here. We'll go to the 49ers first. Debo now out as well as Christian McCaffrey. It just stinks, man. Seeing these high-end players get hurt just sucks. And I guess Debo's not officially out, but they said he's doubtful and highly not likely going to miss a couple games. I mean, I'm going right back to the well on Mason. He didn't get enough of a price increase, in my opinion, and the Rams have allowed 197 rushing yards per game over the first 2 games. This run defense is absolutely atrocious. I mean, going right back to Mason. I know there's going to be a lot of talk about Ayuk this week. But why not just keep playing Mason?
Yeah, I'll play both, actually. I wish Mason was getting a little bit more work in the passing game, but he's still too cheap, like you mentioned. So he's going to get 20-plus touches in a great matchup. Love that. Brandon Ayuk currently doesn't project very well. I'm hoping that sticks. I don't think it will. I think he's going to get steamed all week, and I think he's going to go up the projections around the models or in the models around the industry. But man, if he's going to be the clear wide receiver 1 against a team that's 30th in EPA against the pass, sign me up for that, especially in a good weather game. I'll play some Kittle. Juwan Jennings is decent, flyer if you want to get off of the Rams guys that are going to be popular. Just an easy pivot there, especially is this an afternoon game?
Yeah. So
if you're playing, DeMarcus Robinson or Tyler Johnson, and one of them or your team's not doing good, just pivot over to Jennings. I fit the ownership, try to catch up that way.
I was thinking about this earlier today. I was like, what is really interesting as far as a contrarian build from this game? Mason 49ers defense. Mm-hmm. I think that is ways you could, because I mean, listen, the Rams, they're going to be popular because they're just so shorthanded. People are going to be using this value. I think using Mason and the 49ers defense makes a lot of sense DFS contrarian wise. I mean, Jordan Mason, fourth in all of NFL in snap percentage at 81%, number one in attempts per run for team at 76%. Just absolutely fantastic usage numbers from Jordan Mason. Like you said, we wish he was getting involved in the passing game more. He's a 3% target rate. He has 2 targets. Just not going to be involved in the passing game whatsoever. I like George Kittle too. George Kittle is someone that I think you could definitely take advantage of Debo being out. I mean, really, like when McCaffrey's out, George Kittle sees a huge bump. Now that McCaffrey and Debo are out, I think George Kittle in line for 6 to 10 targets in this game. So a lot of interest in George Kittle as well. The Rams, Puka, Cooper Kupp. What a rough go here, losing wide receiver 1 and 2. What are we doing with this LA Rams team?
One quick Kittle stat. So with Debo active the last 31 games, he's averaging 11.9 fantasy points per game. Without Debo, he's averaging 21. So huge boost for Kittle. I like that call quite a bit. On the Rams side, yeah, I mean, their O-line has been really bad. It's been banged up. We saw the Cardinals shut them down, and we don't think the Cardinals defense is all that good. No Kupp, no Puka. So, I'll take some shots on Robinson, Tyler Johnson, Parkinson. I think Kyren is a pretty safe play. We saw Blake Corum get some run if you were looking at the box score, but that was just late in the game. When it didn't matter, they just benched Kyren and, let Corum get some run. So I'll play a little bit of everyone here, but man, I kind of like your Niners Z call the more I think about it.
Oh, Stafford probably wishing he retired.
He looked so good that opening game too against the Lions.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't. I'll be honest. I can't get excited about playing any of these like cheap pieces, and they're not projecting for a ton of ownership yet. But I think as the week goes, I think that DraftKings did a fantastic job pricing up these wide receivers enough where 3,500 Robinson here would be 20% owned. The fact that they bumped him up to 5K makes it a little bit tougher. I don't hate the Williams play. I think that Williams usage-wise makes a ton of sense in this spot. I'm going to play a little bit of the cheap plays. I hate it. I really do. But, I mean, I think you have to. And I don't mind the Parkinson call. But we kind of expected him to be way more involved last week against Arizona, and he just was not involved at all. So that kind of stunk. But, yeah, I mean...
their whole offense wasn't really involved.
When you lose Cooper Kupp that early, and you saw the play, Cooper Kupp tried to play through it, and it was just he couldn't. So you knew at halftime it was just going to be a brutal second half not having Cooper Kupp out there, and that's exactly what it was. Stunk for Arizona stacks too, because Arizona was going to put it on, and I had a ton of Harrison, and wanted more. It just wasn't going to work out, but I wanted more. The afternoon games, by the way, on this slate, fantastic. Another one right here. Baltimore at Dallas, 48.5 total in this game. Baltimore, a slight favorite last time I looked. Any interest here in the Ravens?
Man, I'm not happy with them right now. I had a big teaser with them last week. Just needed them to win by 3. Obviously, they gave up a 10-point lead with 8 minutes to go. And they were also my survivor picks. So, yeah, Ravens, not too happy with them. But Lamar Jackson, averaging 23 fantasy points per game, and it doesn't feel like he's played very well so far. So it just kind of shows how good he is at picking up fantasy points. He already has 21 rush attempts. It's going to be indoors. I kind of like Lamar as a bounce-back candidate. They did start running Derrick Henry off tackle more in the second half of that game against the Raiders. And he broke off some big runs, even had one of his famous stiff arms. So maybe that'll get him going. I don't think I'll play him this week. But one stat that I did want to bring up, Zay Flowers, number 1 among all wide receivers in expected fantasy points this year, 23.3 per game. So, the opportunities are there at least.
Yeah, Zay Flowers is one of my favorite wide receiver plays on the slate. I absolutely love this spot for him this week. And we keep wanting Bateman to be a thing, and he's just not a thing. I think it's just never going to happen at this point. I do have some interest in Derrick Henry on like FanDuel and Yahoo, where it's like half point PPR, where touchdowns matter more. I think Derrick Henry is a guy that can score multiple touchdowns in this spot. The Dallas run defense has been really awful to start the year. So I think like Derrick Henry is someone that could get going in the end zone here. But yeah, Zay Flowers, Lamar Jackson. I love Lamar Jackson in these games where like it's going to be a competitive game. You get more rushing upside from Lamar. So I'll build some Lamar Zay Flower teams, but Zay Flowers just in general, I like him a lot. I like the Dallas side too. You know, Baltimore, they've allowed the most passing yards through the first 2 weeks, and you're like, all right, well, who have they faced? And then you're like, all right, well, they've allowed the most after the Raiders and the Chiefs. Like the Chiefs make a ton of sense, but the Raiders, like we just watched the Raiders come back, like you said, and beat Baltimore by just carving up this defense. It was wild. This is a good right spot for Dak. CeeDee Lamb, I know he's expensive, but you have to love him. Like this is just one of those spots where I think it's time to play Dak. He's 6,600. He's kind of not really done much, and I feel like this is a 3 touchdown week, and 2 of them go to CeeDee Lamb.
Man, I can't remember what show I was watching last week, but I got talked into a Dak and CD stack, and it was my best lineup for a while. And they got down like 3 touchdowns, and we've seen this so many times with the Cowboys. Dak just puts up monster numbers, and they just couldn't get a first down after that long play to CD. I was expecting so much garbage time production and just didn't get it. So that was a little disappointing. But yeah, I love CD here. He didn't practice on Wednesday, so keep an eye on that. I guess he's got an ankle injury. And then Rico Dowdle got the start over Zeke. Something to keep an eye on. I think he's only 4,400 on DraftKings. Do you have any interest there?
Nope. Hey. Like I do, like if we get like a clear roll where it like turns into like 70-30 moving forward, I would much rather play like Rico, but I feel like Dallas wants Elliott to like be their goal line back still. I don't know. I just need to see it. They got Deuce Vaughn involved last week too. Like I know the game kind of got out of hand, but like getting him on the field too, it's like no. I mean, if anything, like I think we should be highlighting like Tolbert. Like his numbers last week against New Orleans were really good, and I know some of it happened in the fourth quarter, but like he kind of jumped ahead of Brandon Cooks early in the game too. So like if anything, I'd play Tolbert as like a cheap piece here, but I want to see if like Ferguson plays too, because if not, I mean, I'd play some Schoonmaker in this game. But yeah, I mean, it's CD and Dak for me. I think it's just playing the studs here.
Yeah, one note on Schoonmaker. He had a good game, but he ran 15 routes and he caught a ball on 6 of them. I don't think that's going to happen again. But yeah, keep an eye on Jake Ferguson for sure. And yeah, I do like the Tolbert call. Just looking at his numbers, 20% target rate or 40% target rate, 20% air yard rate. That's pretty good for 3,800 guy on a good offense.
In a game that should be phenomenal. Speaking of phenomenal games, Detroit at Arizona. Absolutely excited for this game. This is a game, probably the highest scoring game of the weekend. 51.5 total. Detroit's a slight favorite here at -3. I know it's not in Detroit, but man, this is gosh, gotta love this one. What do you like here for the Lions?
Yeah, I like this one a lot. You got Jared Goff in the indoor splits that you can always quote for your content this week if anybody does any content. I like pairing him up with Amon-Ra St. Brown. He was really limping around out there last week, but stayed on the field, and it sounds like he's going to be good to go. I think he practiced on Wednesday. Jahmyr Gibbs is kind of a large field, maybe afternoon type of play. I mean, he's averaging 18.5 opportunities per game. I mean, I know he's in a time split, but when the running backs are getting 35 touches every week, that's still enough for Gibbs to get there. So I do like him as a tournament play. Can always play some JMO too. What about you?
I mean, I'm going to keep playing him. Yeah. JMO, man, this looks like the real deal. And I mean, both of these wide receivers practiced fully on Wednesday, which is already a really good start for JMO, who was dealing with a little bit of an ankle last week. 20 targets in the first 2 games. And St. Brown, like we had 11 targets for JMO last week, and St. Brown had 19. So we saw exactly what we needed to see. It's a clear wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. I'm more worried about Laporta than anybody else because, I mean, if you look at some of the first like read stats, like it's St. Brown and Williams. It's not Laporta right now. So I probably put Laporta on the bench for right now as far as like DFS purposes. But yeah, I mean, Williams, St. Brown, Goff. I probably play Kyler before I play Jared Goff here because of the upside for Kyler. And I mean, I don't mind playing 4 or 5 people from a game sometimes. And I think that this game is one of those games. So let's talk about the Cardinals. After all the talk, it just all was so much BS. Like, I feel like he said all that stuff on purpose just so he could go out there and light it up with his boy. Marvin Harrison Jr., 40% first read rate, 38% targets, a 69% of the air yard share in week 2. Exactly what everybody wanted in week 1. That's why you can't overreact to week 1. Love what we saw out of Arizona last week.
Yeah, I love it too. Wish I would have played more Harrison. He also had like 2 or 3 more end zone targets that they just missed on. So even when they were up big, he just kept throwing in the ball, especially when they got near the end zone. So love Kyler too. I usually don't do my tags in lineup HQ until Thursday or Friday, but already have Kyler Murray tagged as my favorite quarterback of the week. He's cheap. Detroit's got a good pass rush, so I think he's going to be running around a bunch. He's so great at that, just running all parts of the field and then either making a play downfield or picking it up with his legs. And then love McBride too. I mean, 29% target share, one of the highest for any tight end so far this season. And James Conner, our boy, he gets there every week. Nobody ever plays him. I'll just keep playing James Conner.
I will say I'm a little bit like down on Connor this week just because like Detroit run defense has been so good. Like PFF has them like the 3rd best run defense to start the year. His usage is just insane. It really is. So I won't full fade him, but I think that this week there's probably options that I like more. And like even going to the other side of this game, I think I'd prefer like taking the tournament shot on Gibbs over Connor this week, but James Conner, man, that guy, like you said, no one plays him, and it's just fantastic, right? Like it's just keep playing him. Trey McBride is somebody else I wanted to highlight here. I think Trey McBride is someone you could play at tight end and double stacks with Arizona. Like you said, they got up by all those touchdowns last week, and they were still, when it was 1-on-1 with Harrison, they were trying to feed him touchdown. So they were feeding him touchdown targets. I don't love the Dortch or Wilson. I just prefer playing the studs here. The targets are really spread out between those 2 guys. I think it's going to be Harrison, McBride, Connor, and Murray really kind of leading the offense for Arizona all year. And you'll have those like occasional big games from Wilson and Dortch where they'll have big catches, but nothing you can really trust full time here, I don't think.
Yep, I agree. Give me the studs.
Give me the studs. Favorites pod contest. If you're looking for a plus EV contest this NFL season, our friends over at Action Network have one for you. Their podcast called The Favorites is bringing back their free NFL Pick'em contest this season. Totally free to sign up at favorites.actionnetwork.com. Just 5 picks against the spread each week. Cash prizes for the top 10 finishers, $40,000 first place prize, $100,000 prize pool. Thousands up for grabs each week. Again, totally free to play. Contest just went live. Go to the favorites.actionnetwork.com to sign up and compete for the 100,000 prize pool today. All right, morning grind game. A lot of injuries, a lot to talk about on that aspect. But, man, I like this slate. It's a lot of fun. I actually crossed off a couple of the running backs that I had written down on like my initial research, so was able to narrow down some running backs, which is always great. Malik Willis is the same player as Lamar Jackson. Mike, I'm going to have to agree with or disagree with you on that. I like hot takes, but that one, I think that one's a little bit of a hot take, Mike. All right. Quarterback for 300 plus passing yards. Who do you got?
You're going to like this one. I'm going Derek Carr.
Oh, you took my guy. So yeah, I do like that one. You are 100% correct. I do like that one. Man, I struggle I'm going to go Dak. I think that would be my second option is Dak. I think Dak's going to get going, but yeah, I'm with you. I like Derek Carr a lot. It's Wednesday, but is there a low-owned running back that you like for a touchdown this week?
I'm going to go Zamir White. I know Madison got the short touchdown last week, but I like the spot for him at home. And yeah, I'm just trusting Antonio Pierce. He's a guy that seems to do what he says.
Just do what he says. I'm going to go with my boy Swift. I talked about this. I'm probably going to eat my words as much as I like this guy, but hey, I'm going to definitely make sure DeAndre Swift is in the morning grind lineup for the Listeners League. So good or bad,
Swift
top
and
or
Zamir
bottom.
White. It's going to be good.
Yeah. So there you go. Quarterback, wide receiver is stacked for a touchdown.
Kyler Murray to Marvin Harrison. I was going to do Trey McBride, but then we got a question for tight end for touchdown. So swap to Marvin.
There you go. A lot of options this week. I feel like every week when it comes to this, I feel like there's a lot of options. But there's one. Hold on. There's one. Yeah, here it is. I got to go with Sam Darnold to Justin Jefferson for my touchdown this week. Wide receiver for 8+ targets.
I'm going to go Devontae Smith, 33% target share last week without A.J. Brown. And yeah, great game environment. They're going to have to score a bunch of points to keep up with the Saints.
I'm going to stay in that same game and go Chris Olave. I think Olave, we kind of saw it last week. I bet his over receiving yards again after week 1, but they just didn't have to throw the ball in the second half. They got Olave going early in that game. They got Shaheed going early in that game, and they destroyed Dallas and didn't have to throw. So I think they're going to throw more. Tight end for a touchdown. Who do you got?
George Kittle, 6 touchdowns in his last 6 games without Debo. Let's make it 7 for 7.
Yeah, he took my guy. Bowers is projected as like one of the highest owned tight ends on this slate, so I didn't want to take him. I'll go Goddard. Give me Dallas Goddard to score a touchdown this week. But Bowers and Kittle are going to be the 2 tight ends that I build a lot of lineups around this week. I think both of those tight ends are just fantastic plays this week. Defense for 10+ points. Who do you got?
I'm going with the Browns. I just think they're in a good spot against Daniel Jones at home.
The Browns. See, the one that I wish I knew, like if Jordan Love wasn't playing, I was gonna say Tennessee, but I don't know like who's playing in that game or not. I feel like this price is just really good on Pittsburgh this week, so give me the Steelers at 3,300 to score 10+ points. They're just getting after the quarterback. They've allowed 16 points through the first 2 games. They look awesome. Justin Fields doesn't have to do what he did in Chicago because this defense is just so good. Betting portion of the game, any against the spread or money line bets that you like this week?
Yeah, I like the Browns defense so much that I think they're going to carry them to a win of more than 6.5 points. So give me Browns minus 6.5.
It's always scary, right? Betting on Watson. Oh, that's the thing we want to do right now. But I'm going to stay like the defensive play.
Yeah.
I'm going to say the defensive play and go Pittsburgh minus 1.5 here. I like the Steelers to win this week. Any over-under bets you like?
Philly, New Orleans over 49.5.
Yes. I'm with you. By the way, I like that one as well. Gosh, it just seems like a good one. I'm going to go Dallas and Baltimore over 48.5. Think it's at 48.5 still. I didn't check, but I'm pretty sure that's what it's still at. You got chat will always correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, it's still 48.5. So, any player props or pick 'em plays you like this week?
Yeah, I was going to go either Devontae or Olave, but I already had Devontae as an answer. So I'm going to go Chris Olave over 59.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, I like that one. I wrote that up on Scores and Odds. That's what I was talking about. Derek and I were on a player the same. I'm going to go George Kittle over 48.5 receiving yards. This is moved to 50.5 in a couple places. There's a couple places you can still get it at 48.5. I like it at 50.5 as well. I think that line is just too low with no Debo, no Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey out bumps up targets for Debo and Kittle, and now Debo's out too. So just a spot I want to take advantage of and try not to die coughing in between muting my mic.
Yeah, that was perfectly timed mute, though. That was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean,
veteran.
A professional at this point, right? Like going on almost 9 years. All right, 3-pick parlay for the morning grind game this week. It's going to that Saints game, Saints Philadelphia. Devontae Smith over 5.5 receptions. Derek Carr over 34.5 passing yards. Receiving yards would be baller. And Chris Olave over 59.5 receiving yards. Same game parlay. I wrote this up on Scores and Odds earlier today. This is my morning grind 3-pick parlay as well. Hopefully we could build off of it. Like the baseball one hit on Wednesday, so hopefully we could build off of that. 0 for 2 on 3-pick parlays to start the NFL season. So I feel like I need to get one here, and I like this one a lot. Not many times I bet single game parlays on a Wednesday, but man, these lines just seem too good to pass on.
Yeah, I like it. Off the bet it too.
There you go. Before we get out of here, are you someone or someone you know dying to go to Taylor Swift Eras Tour? Play our free-to-play game every week for a chance to win 2 tickets and a trip to Vancouver. Check out tickpick6.actionnetwork.com to play and watch this short video for more info. It is linked in our description, and you can check that out. For everybody that's curious on Carr over 34.5 passing yards, Derek Carr over 234.5 passing yards. So, yeah. So
I was gonna ask that, but I just thought I'd let it slip. You know?
Listen, I was trying not to like die. Like my throat was like, I was dying over here. But yeah, for whoever's curious, the morning grind image this week will be Justin Jefferson. If you've been playing baseball, you know what that means. I hope everyone has a fantastic week 3. We're back next Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern for week 4. Good luck, everyone. We'll see you then.